screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Are you enslaved? Have you been bought and sold as a commodity? Have you been duped into abandoning a portion of yourself? Who has picked up on the pieces that you abandoned? Our guest tonight on Rogue Ways has done the digging to uncover a sacred portion that must be reclaimed, and he is on a mission to help each and every one of us free ourselves from the invisible chains that bind us. Kurt Kallenbach, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Well, I've been battling a cold since Thanksgiving, but I'm here tonight. So.
Since Thanksgiving. Is this the, do you think it's the influenza A that's been going around, and did it settle in your lungs?
Yeah, it's in my lungs, and it's hard to get out, yeah.
God.
Who knows what they're doing out there nowadays, you know?
Exactly, yeah. I think I had the same thing, and I was lucky enough to hit it really early with, like, powerful anti-everythings, all the best natural stuff like oregano oil and elderberry and all this stuff, and it only lasted like a week and a half for me, but I think I was a lucky one because a lot of people are more like what you're saying, that it's going on and on and on. So I'm sorry you're suffering.
I'm older than you too by quite a bit, I think, so.
Yeah, my age is deceptive. I'm older than most people think, but you might be right. I don't know. But before we get started, I do want to tell people that you can grab all sorts of freebies on my site, rogueways.org. And you can also purchase Rogue gear like this mug that I love, my Rogue Ways mug. I have a shirt now. I have a sweatshirt. There's all kinds of cool stuff on there that you can grab if you want to do that to help support the show, since I don't charge, and that is one of the few ways that I can get a little bit of money from this. And also I'm trying to offer my book. I'm not trying to. I am offering my book, Sine Curve of Aeons, at a discount. If you buy it on Amazon, it's $15 plus shipping plus tax. And I am going to send it to you shipped anywhere in the U.S. for $15. Just flat, and then you'll also get an inscription from me, or to anyone who you want to give it to. I can write it to someone else as well, and a few Rogue Ways stickers as well. So if you want to do that, that is available. You can get a tarot reading, which more people have been taking advantage of lately, and I'm very excited to offer that to people who are seeking. So if you're someone who has something that you really want to get more insight into, it's the cheapest therapy you're ever going to get, and it's often very profound. So you can do that. And you can also donate. I've had a few people donate, and that is very helpful and always appreciated. If you've been watching Rogue for a while and you've gotten value out of it, it would be nice to kick a few dollars my way. And so you can do all three of those things, the tarot reading, donation, and grab the book for $15. And you can do all of those through PayPal. So if you go to paypal.me/Corey Sharman. Sorry, Corey Sharman. Oh my gosh. QUORRISCHARMYN. Then you can just let me know what it's for, and make sure to do that as friends and family, or as a gift, so that PayPal doesn't rob both of us. And finally, and this is very exciting, I do have a Subscribe Star up and running. So if you're interested in supporting me in that way, this is my Subscribe Star. It's at subscribestar.com/rogue-ways. And you can come in at any level and get access to some content that's only going to be available on Subscribe Star, like a few videos and some audio recordings, and some tarot readings that I'm going to do there. And there's just some different levels for you to play around with if you are interested in that. That is an awesome way to support me as well. So go check that out. Those are the things that you can do to support Rogue Ways or me, and you get good stuff out of it. So pick your way that you'd like to participate. And now finally, for the pointless question of the episode. Kurt, I always have a pointless question, and I wanted to ask you what time period you would like to live in if you could choose any time period besides now.
Besides now?
Yeah, if you couldn't choose now, if you had to choose another one.
Well, define now first.
Oh, that's a really good point.
No, if you're talking about 2020, if that's the now you're speaking of, then I would always choose the present. which is
love
different than 2020.
Why? What's the difference between them?
Well, because 2020 is the Gregorian-based calendar that Pope Gregory set up in 1582. That has nothing to do with what we would perceive to be as today. Today is not on any calendar. So the whole idea is that you're asking me what period of time would I prefer to live in? How about the present?
I love that answer.
Because all calendars are arbitrary. They're all, I call them time machines. They're time machines. So any calendar that we believe in places us in a time frame. We frame ourselves according to an arbitrary calendar. The Jewish calendar says it's the year 5780 right now. So depending on a belief system, you can place yourself in all kinds of situations. So the present is the only place that's not on any calendar. So I'll choose the present always over everything else, because that's reality.
That is reality. I love that answer.
That's
it was
reality.
Unexpected.
No, it was fun. It's a good segue for everything that I do, because that's the problem. It is the problem. All calendars are arbitrary. All calendars are time machines.
It's true. They're all, and somebody brought it up the other day. They're like, it's not actually 2020. And everybody was kind of like, yes, it is. It's 2020. What are you talking about? And they're like, well, no, I mean, just exactly what you said. There's all these different ways of looking at time. And really, when it comes down to it, there only is now, here. Right now.
Okay, let's just have some fun. I have no idea what you wanted to talk about tonight, but let's
we
just
can go
have
anywhere.
some fun right off the bat. Off the bat. At the beginning, and I mean small g Genesis, the beginning is what? Fertilization. That's the beginning of all of our lives, fertilization. Here's the deal. What day was it?
Yeah, I have no idea.
On what calendar does the moment of your creation exist? Tell me what calendar it exists on. It doesn't. No. In fact, there's no evidence of it, because the first 9 months in the womb are missing. The birth date, the actual beginning of our time frame, in my case, let's say September 19th, 1960 at 3:50 a.m., according to a birth record, that's 9 months. There's 9 months missing in my life at that point, the entire front end. So think about that. Because my origin doesn't exist in time. It doesn't exist in time, which means reality is outside of the realm of any calendar. That's why when you learn reality, when you understand the weight and the power of reality, it's off the record. There is no record of reality. There's only record of fiction, characters born to a timeline. So if you really think about it, 2020, or in my case, 1960, at 3:50 a.m., that character has nothing to do with reality.
Yeah.
It's a character born to a banking system and exclusive to that. And the problem is when we don't understand that the first 9 months of our existence is unaccountable, meaning that, and this is where I stick now. When I go on any podcast or anybody right now, the only place that makes sense to go is to identify the source of the global cancer. The source of the global cancer is that if you're living through their character, then you don't exist in reality. You made a choice. There can only be one of you. And since we've all chosen the birth certificated person or position or narrative, we have all disappeared from the face of the earth.
Weird. We're like the Walking Dead. We're like zombies.
How many shows are there out there right now about Dracula, zombies, Walking Dead? It's all because we have chosen against, and I don't use this term lightly, God, because I'm not a religious man. So all religions or all belief systems are arbitrary. Again, no belief system is required for life. Yeah. In fact, you could eliminate every belief system on planet Earth, and we'd still be here talking.
Yes, so and all the same principles would still be true.
Yeah. So anyway, that's. I'm going to follow you because it's more fun. It's more fun for me. I know what it's like to be on your end.
Well, I love
really a lot.
I love going anywhere we want, so that's totally fine too. But I definitely have questions that I could ask you and that I would enjoy as well.
Let's do that. Let's make it easy on me.
Okay.
And I'm gonna you ask me whatever you want, and I'll apply everything I know.
All right. So the first thing I did want to ask you was that I just wanted to hear about kind of where you came from.
fertilization.
I love it.
Where did that come from? I came from where everybody else does. In 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago now, I was angry about some things, and I believed that Ron Paul and the patriotic pathway was the way. And so I went that direction, and within about a year, I realized that none of that nonsense made any sense whatsoever.
So is this sort of like the start of your awakening, that everything was sort of wrong led you to that?
No, it started when I was a kid. I never actually fit into anything ever. While everybody else was participating, I looked at him and said, "What in the hell are you doing? Why would you do that? It makes no sense to do what you're doing." That included my own dad.
Yeah.
My own dad was 6 kids by the time he was 30, and he loved the man dearly. Great dad, but he died recently at 81 years old. Completely defeated, because this system is about this. This machine is specific to eating us up and spitting us out. That's what it's for.
We're just like fuel for this evil machine. Well, I love this this thread that gets tied together through every person who comes on Rogue Ways, basically, and I guess that's what it is we're all like kind of rogue from the beginning. We're all like rebels, and none of us sort of fit in, and none of us kind of followed along, and we all sort of saw through things from a very early age. So I love just finding out that that's true every single time I interview someone. It's like we were put on this path from the very beginning. But that, I'm sure, caused some problems for you as well, as you're kind of coming up in the world, that you're kind of detached from everything and kind of looking where to go and what to do.
Well, it's really, really troublesome, because how many females want to be attached to a male that doesn't have any interest in having houses and cars and all that stuff? Yeah. Well, I wish it was true. I wish it was Mayberry. I wish this world was that way, but it's not.
That'd be nice.
And so I never wanted to attach myself, or I'll use the word bond myself, to a mortgage I'd love to have a house. I'd love to own a house, but I know that you can't, and I know that I probably won't ever in my lifetime. So all of these things that other people find normal, I never had any interest in, and it's bad for relationships. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, I guess like nowadays, maybe
no
it's
offense,
a little...
lady.
Yeah. Is it easier now just to jump to the present to find people, or there's kind of like more, I would assume more women who are kind of understanding that path and that choice and supportive of it, or has it gotten any easier, or is it still just as bad?
No, it wouldn't. Even my wife, we've been together 20 years, and she's a hardcore redhead. And and realistically, we haven't had traditional jobs since 2005.
Woohoo!
So but she started internet stuff, whether it's eBay or Amazon, and we've been doing that since then. And it's a lot of work. There's no nets. I always say that we work without a net, and everybody asks me, who is a net? Well, we don't work with a net. There's no safety. So if we don't do anything, if we don't figure this out, the bills don't get paid. There is nobody Monday through Friday at the end of the week handing us a paycheck, and there hasn't been since 2005. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But it's I don't even know what it's like. I'm truly unemployable at this point.
Yeah. Well, but you have a lot of freedom in that too, I imagine. Part of the thing that a lot of people get worn down by the system so quickly is because we go to these jobs that we hate, and we're ordered around by people who are not smarter than us, and and it's just degrading all day, every day. And I imagine you have less of that with this kind of self-employment that you found.
Yeah. By the way, I want your book. So just so you know, I love the title.
Oh.
I think I'd be interested in it. Anyway.
I love it. I'm sure. I hope you love it.
I will.
Awesome.
But there's something about that. I don't think people understand that when they sell themselves to a job, nobody really knows the depth. I've been at this now for almost 11 years, and I know stuff right now, I can tell you, that nobody knows or even has any connection to.
Right.
I know that this so-called more perfect union, when they established this thing through the Social Security system, when the AFL-CIO put out a constitution for that union, see, nobody understands that what's happening in Washington, this is one giant employment Hanse, Hanse. It's a Hanse. It's where we all work through our locals without knowing they even exist. And the people in Washington are union representatives. That's all this is. It's a giant, more perfect union. And of course, the patriots would say, yeah, more perfect union. Hey, listen, nature doesn't allow this kind of stuff to actually happen. So when you start to learn the simplicity of reality, you realize that even in the Declaration of Independence, when they speak about laws of nature and nature's God, there's no room in the laws of nature and nature's God for a birth certificated person. It doesn't exist. You know, I live in the just south of Madison, Wisconsin, and just northwest of Chicago. I don't see, you know, squirrels out there. I saw them all fall bearing the nuts, but none of them, not a single one of them, had a schedule. None of them were wearing watches. None of them had employers. If they didn't bury the nuts, they went hungry. They'll go hungry this winter. Nobody realizes that this giant communist system that was put in place by FDR in 33 is, we are now, they call it consumerism or to consume, but what we don't realize is we're consuming each other. We are actually, this is a society where if my neighbor down the block is going hungry, guess what they get to do? They get to take from me to feed the neighbor. We don't see it that way. But it's been communism since 1933 with the birth certificated person. But anyway, I don't like talking about that stuff. I prefer to talk about the machination, the one thing, and there's only one that allows you to get out from under it when you understand it.
Well, that I like this wordplay that you're going with, and the idea of the more perfect union. I've definitely never thought of the sort of double entendre or the true meaning that could possibly hold. But that squirrel reminded me when you were saying that you work without a safety net, that is pretty much mimicking all of nature as well. Like, there's no safety net in nature. That squirrel has no safety net either, unless the squirrel builds it for themselves and they go out and, like you said, plant all those nuts to then dig up later. They're not going to make it. And so in a way, your self-reliance in that way is closer to nature. And I don't know if you do any sort of off-grid or, growing your own food or any of that sort of stuff to help supplement any of that. But I think the model that you're using for yourself to be employed is closer, at least. And then that would be like another step to get back to something that would be resembling more sensibility, perhaps.
Well, way back in the Patriot nonsense days, we were looking to get off grid, so to speak. We actually, it was all me, by the way. And I should say this, I don't know any couples that survived this. I don't know any couples that survived this nonsense, because when somebody awakens to what's going on, it is threatening on every level. And so I don't know anybody that actually makes it as a couple. We still struggle, but at a different level. And because of the things that are happening on my end, the proof or the evidence of my work, it makes it maybe somewhat bearable.
Yeah. Because
it's not hopeless. On my end, it's not hopeless. It was hopeless for about 8 years. And I'm going to tell you right now, for all you folks that don't know what's going on, it is truly hopeless. And I mean that. It's hopeless, because if you don't know the truth of the matter, when I say truth of the matter, I mean actually the entirety of your property. If you don't know the entirety of your property, which is basically the Oracle of Delphi, know thyself. Most people know that, and they think, okay, know thyself, but what most people don't know is the rest of that line.
What's the rest
of the line is know thyself in thine proper proportion, which means if you forget any one piece of you anywhere, there's a missing piece or a missing link. And that's what they're working with in that 9 months in the womb. So again, to know thyself in thine proper proportion means from the first moment or first act of creation, which is fertilization, all the way to this present moment as you and I speak. That's an unbroken, there's continuity in your life. From fertilization to this moment in the present is continuity. And if you believe in a birth date, you have actually aborted that continuity. You separated into an unborn position and a born position, and those two positions create a space. There's a space between those two positions at that point, and that's what's called interstate. That interstate or purgatory is where all interstate commerce is occurring, in between those two positions. If there's continuity, there's no space. There's no break. So they created a person that only exists as an abortion. Now we'll get into this. We can get into this.
Yeah.
You scrunched your nose there because you're thinking that you know. That's because you don't know what it means.
Right.
No offense.
That's why I'm like, I don't know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, this is so huge. This material is so huge that I never know where to start. But there's only one place to start. It's always the beginning.
Right.
Then there's only one place to start. And when you know the entirety of your existence, to know thyself in thine proper proportion, means from that first cell, that zygote, all the way to this moment in the present is one singular lifetime.
Yes.
If there's a break anywhere in there or a presumption of a break in the biology from fertilization to this moment, there's that presumption allows for two separate positions or a duality. I can explain this, and it's really fun. And when people get it, even at the biblical level, when you get it to biblical level, it's not offensive. When you understand what Jesus actually is. I don't like saying it
the word
because people
Jesus?
when they hear Jesus, they think it's a hymn.
Triggered.
They get triggered, and they don't realize that Jesus is a thing.
Yeah.
It's a biological thing.
What is the biological thing that is Jesus?
All right, here we go. You ready?
Yes.
How much time do we actually have?
We have as much time as you want. It's usually between an hour and 2 hours. But the listeners sometimes will stick around for longer than that. So it's kind of up to us. All
right, here we go.
All right.
I'm going to start where I always start now. So people, if you haven't heard me on Crow or some of these other shows, by the way, I just did one yesterday, mind blowing. So for people to know, there are talks out there that are amazing, and you just keep your heart open and keep your mind open. Here we go. Okay. When mom and dad lay together, this is so amazing to me. Mom and dad lay together. And I use the word mom and dad for a reason. I prefer dad over father and mom over mother because mother and father can be generic or religious connotations. My dad is my dad. Yeah. You can't confuse my dad with any other father.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So my dad is my dad, not your dad. If you were Catholic, you could say father and be speaking about a priest, and the entire congregation could call him father. Right. But when it comes down to dad, I have one dad.
Yes.
So here we go. When mom and dad lay together, what happens there? Not to be vulgar, but all that really happens is dad's dropping off building materials at a job site.
Yes.
That's what he's doing. He's dropping, the sperm is the building materials, 23 chromosomes. So my dad is dropping off 23 chromosomes in a pile. A loving spoonful, so to speak. Yeah. 10 cc's. I mean, name the band.
Yeah.
But so he drops off this building material called sperm, and at a job site, and that job site has my mom's building material as well, called an ovum. So these two things, and of course sperms are by the millions, and there's only one ovum, but it's still just building materials, and they're sitting at this job site. That's it. That's all mom and dad do. They don't do anything after that.
Yeah.
So this is where the magic comes in. This is where the act of creation or God comes in. That spark, that unbelievable act of creation that leads to the fertilization of that ovum, that's an act of creation that mom and dad have nothing to do with. Yeah. I call that God. And the neat thing about that is that spark, that thing that actually ends up, the product of that fertilization is called the zygote. It's a single cell. I call it the singularity. That singularity, that one cell, has both the 23 chromosomes from dad and 23 from mom, but they're not dad's 23 and mom's 23. They're a brand spanking new, unique 46 chromosome entity.
I love that you call that singularity, because I hate I hate the concept of the electronic or robotic or computerized singularity, and I just read a poem and did a little recording of it yesterday of mine called Singularity that is in opposition to that singularity and has a lot more connection with your singularity.
This biological singularity is the only moment in time and space where we are all one in one. I'm talking about a space-time singularity. This is so cool. All of my DNA undifferentiated in one single ball. It's called the zygote. And that zygote is the beginning of my biological estate. It is mine. It's not part my dad and not part my mom. It's brand spanking new, unique to the world, and it'll never be repeated.
Yes.
It is my godly estate. It's the entirety of my estate. The neat thing about that is that from that moment, that single cell, that zygote lasts for about 24 hours, one day. One day, that's it. It only lasts for one day. Starting, let's say, with day 2. By the way, every embryologist on planet Earth will agree with me, but that is the beginning of life right there. It doesn't begin with the word conception. It doesn't begin with a birth certificate. It doesn't begin at any other moment anywhere else on planet Earth. It begins with fertilization, and the product of that is the zygote. I call it where Darwin meets God. Where Darwin meets God. Why would I say something like that? Because everybody goes, Kurt, Darwin, come on, man, Darwin. Hell yes. Here's why. People don't realize is that you got this act of God, this fertilization, this spark that unites these things and turns it into something brand spanking new. But what is it that's created? The zygote is actually the species-specific origin of man. It's not going to turn into a zebra. It's not going to turn into a monkey. It's not going to turn into a fish. It's going to turn into man. So the zygote is species-specific origin of man. And it will never be anything other than that. So you've got Darwin and God side by side. They're not
awesome.
enemies. And what's neat about Darwin and at that point is people go, but Kurt Darwin, blah, blah, blah. They don't, first of all, how many people that you know have ever read Darwin? Tell them to shut the hell up. Hey, if you haven't read Darwin, then shut the hell up anyway. But here's the thing. From the single cell, the 9 months in the womb is evolution. It's the entire evolutionary process from single cell to full-blown baby coming out of the womb. Yeah. That's evolution. It has nothing to, by the way, is there any time frame? Or is it prehistoric? It's prehistory, isn't it?
Interesting.
So everything in the womb is prehistoric, isn't it? By the way, there's your prehistoric missing link right there.
Yeah.
It's the missing link between God and man. If I negate or if I deny the 9 months in the womb, I don't get the act of creation, fertilization, and I don't get the product of that, the zygote. I don't get God or man if I don't claim the 9 months in the womb. If I claim a birth certificate, I've actually negated God and man, because the birth certificate is a narrative that begins on a timeline. Can you imagine if everybody learned that they're actually denying God and the rights of man, the unalienable rights of man, by claiming a birth date?
Well, how many people can even conceive of what you're saying? Because they would just get stuck on the word God, and then they'd get stuck on the word, evolution, and then they'd fight about Darwin, and then, the abortion, they'd be like, no, abortion, and, all these things would just devolve into not getting
But that's why this is so fun. The truth will set you free.
Absolutely.
Hell, that's the CIA's motto.
Is it?
It sure is. Can you believe that? The CIA's motto is the truth will set you free.
How backwards is that?
Well, it would seem so.
Yeah.
But if you understand where again, we think we know what we know, but everything I've found is counterintuitive. It's completely opposite. In fact, if everybody out there is talking about this, it's not true.
That's probably true.
because they don't know. So again, going back to that where Darwin meets God moment. Here's the neat thing. Let me pull something up. I don't like to just talk off the top of my head always. I very rarely use notes, just so you know. I actually kind of know this stuff at this point. There's in 1998, the Pope John Paul II wrote a Fides et Ratio or Ratio, and it actually is an encyclical. And I'm going to read the first paragraph because people think the Vatican and the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church are the enemy. it would appear that way in a lot of different ways. But if you know what you're reading, if you know what they've written, you realize that they're always telling the truth. It's where we position ourselves within that, where we actually accept things that are so damaging to us. We accept, and I'll get into the whole Jesus thing in a second, but when you understand that by accepting that blood sacrifice, by accepting that separation or that thing on its own or that character, you have actually broken away from God. And I'll explain how. So here's the first paragraph of this encyclical. It says, faith and reason are like two wings on which the human spirit rises to the contemplation of truth. And God has placed in the human heart a desire to know truth, in a word, to know himself, so that by knowing and loving God, men and women may also come to the fullness of truth about themselves. So he says, the Pope writes, faith and reason are like two wings. And I completely agree with that, because science or reason can be proven. So I can prove scientifically my origin, which is fertilization, and every embryologist on planet Earth would agree with me here. So fertilization is an act of creation that no scientist can actually explain.
Yeah.
And I also know that the unbroken or the timeline that I live on between fertilization and last breath, which is expiration, my last expire, my last breath out, is my death. Yeah. But biologically, I exist between fertilization and that last breath. So I have this meat suit that is alive. It's filled with spirit for that number of years, whatever that means, and it's unbroken. So from fertilization, while we speak right now, look at this, I'm inhaling right now. You can't see me, but I just inhaled. I just brought the breath of God into my sails.
Inspire. When
I exhale, I just expired until my next inhale. So if I don't inhale again, that was it. The alpha and omega, the alpha is fertilization, the omega is expiration. When my last breath is out, that's the end. Once I breathe back in, I'm restarting again. I understand that your lungs are your sails. And the wind in your sails is the breath of God that allows us to move. It's cool stuff.
I love it. I love the merging of, like you're saying, reason and faith within it too, and the poetic sort of wordplay that is required to wrap your head around it is also very fun.
If you came over to my house and saw my library, you would know why I speak this way.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Thank you, ADD.
It can be a gift.
Idea, yeah, and it can also be that other thing, which I lived through a very long time. Faith and reason. So let's deal with this just for a second, because it all fits in, and I'm not trying to scare people. I'm actually trying to say that if you understand this, your faith, if you have faith in something, we'll call it religious, it can actually be a deeper faith when you understand that it actually exists in the real world. What they speak of actually does exist, but it exists in a way that you're being used. If you know what it is, if you own it, then you don't need to kiss a ring and bend a knee to get absolution. If you know the truth of the matter, you don't need to beg anybody for forgiveness because you have the power. So here we go. Faith and reason. Again, reason, science, between fertilization and last breath is provable. Every moment between that 59 years at this point is provable. Everything is provable scientifically. That's reasonable. Here's the thing. Before fertilization, before my biological state was created, that gave me a place for my spirit to land. Where was I?
No one knows.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that requires, there's no reason there, is there?
No.
You can't reason that answer.
No.
You can say, I don't know, or you can say, I believe my spirit was somewhere else. That's right. Faith. So at the front end, you have faith. And then while I'm here, I know that I'm not my body. I know I only possess it. I know that I only occupy it. Absolutely. I'm the only occupant, by the way, from the moment I show up till the moment of that last breath. I'm the only occupant.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure some people would argue against that, Shut up. No, you shut up. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke.
Well, we all hope it's true that there's only one at least.
So again, at the front end requires faith. And at the back end would require faith as well, meaning once Elvis leaves the building, once my spirit, once that spark in the heart, once that SA node fails to receive that spark, and that heart stops beating, with the signal that's being received, once that signal no longer is received, the heart stops, and then the spirit goes out. Where does it go? Again, I don't know. So in between, which is called the meantime, I'm not kidding, in the meantime, between fertilization and last breath, I'm bound. My spirit's bound to this body. And it's not provable. You can't prove spirit. They might say 7 grams or 9 grams or any of that nonsense. But the point is that...
actually prove it.
Yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying is that your spirit and my spirit might even weigh the same, but they're different. Yes. Meaning that when I look out of my eyes and I'm the witness and I experience things, it's different than you. We could be holding hands side by side, looking at the same mountain range, experiencing entirely different things. Completely. Because we're different.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of all this. But that's what makes us different. And biologically, we're made up of the same material.
And I love that we will never be able to prove anything about our spirit, because I love, I don't know, I feel like it would be like tarnishable if we could, or something. There's something pristine.
I'm with you
in
on
it.
that. I love it. Well, and there is. And that's what they're doing is they're getting us to sell that piece of us. They're getting us to actually not see the beauty or the value in that amazing thing. Agreed. That is only us. Mm-hmm. And we give it away. We sit in cubicles and we punch keys and we do all kinds of stuff. And this is our one go around. We got one go around on this planet. Why are you selling yourself short? Yes. Why are you agreeing with this? Why, if it's just to have a better car, a faster car, or whatever it is, understand that the only thing that's of value is time.
I love that.
It's the only thing of value.
We can save time. We can spend time.
We can waste time. And the greatest, think about this. The people that I know are the happiest are the ones that are actually expressing the very essence of their being. They are being who they were intended to be. Yes. They might not have a lot, but they are themselves. And they're happy because there's a resonance. There's a self-resonance. It's a truth. When you're actually projecting that which you are, it is so easy. Everything is easy at that point. So
it's true.
But there's hard science behind this stuff. Let's go back to the biology, and I don't want to go beyond the birth date. I want to stay in the womb.
Okay.
At least, mentally here.
Yeah.
Because this is the most important thing for people to understand. That one cell, that singularity, that zygote that lasts for 24 hours, at, let's say, day 2, it starts to subdivide. For those people that have a piece of paper in front of them right now, grab it and grab a pen and just draw a circle on a piece of paper. Just draw the circle. I don't care how big it is. Because that circle represents day 1. It represents the zygote. It represents all of your 46 chromosomes in one place in one moment in time. It's the only time it exists in that way. You got your shit together. Literally, you got your shit together.
Yeah.
There's no divisiveness at all. Day 2, though, here's what's so cool about this. Day 2, it's the same DNA, but it starts to subdivide. So I want you to put a dot right in the middle of that. Right in the middle of that circle. Just put a dot.
Which is a symbol of the sun.
Right, it's a circumpunct. So you got this circumpunct, or it's the sun, or it's one of the earliest symbols of God, whatever. It's also, if you look at it, the big circle is an ovum, the little circle is a sperm. Oh, yeah. It could actually say that this is where male and female, divine masculine and divine feminine are one singular thing. Yeah. But the reality is it really doesn't exist in that level at day 2. Remember that once mom and dad's 23 separate chromosomes become 46, there's only one thing. Now you see a dot in the middle of that right now, correct? Look
Yes.
at your page, you got a dot?
Yep.
What I want you to do is put kind of a squiggly cord between the dot in the middle and that edge and that circle. So you got the dot connected now to the circle.
Got it.
This is so important. Look at the simplicity of that drawing. Careful, I'm going to ask you a question now.
Okay.
How many things are on that page?
You could say 3. You could say
But
1.
you'd be wrong. If you say 3, you're wrong, because all of that is the same DNA.
True.
It's only one thing. It will always only be one thing.
True.
People don't understand that this is where if you don't understand that zygote is one estate, one godly estate with all of your DNA in one place in space and time. Just because I told you to put a dot there and connect that dot to the edge, how many things are actually there? Still only one.
True.
It's all the same stuff. Just because it's starting to differentiate doesn't mean it's not the same. So if you look at that dot with the cord, obviously you know where this is going. The dot represents the fetus. The cord represents the umbilical. And so the dot in the middle is, I'm going to call it the embryo. I'm going to call it the embryo, even though it's a little early. and so you got this embryo, and then you have everything not embryo, which would be the cord in the outside circle. So the embryo is the middle dot, and everything not embryo is extra embryonic.
Extra embryonic.
It's extra embryo. It's not embryo. It's extra embryo. It's beyond the embryo, but it's still all the same material. The reason this is important is because even though it has a different word attached to it now, it's still the same DNA, isn't it?
Yes.
By the way, here's what's crazy. That outside circle, it really doesn't change much from the zygote. It's day 2 now, and by the way, this whole thing now, it's not called a zygote anymore. It's called a conceptus.
A conceptus.
Conceptus. That's it, but it's always the conceptus from this point forward, all the way to the point of arrival. So it's either the zygote or the conceptus. The zygote only lasts day 1. So the conceptus is, let's say, day 2, all the way to the end. So the conceptus is what we're looking at right now. The dot in the middle, the cord, and then the outside. Now I want you to look at that. This is so cool. Do you realize that embryo or that fetus, that dot in the middle, it becomes the baby, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That circle, that outside, so that baby is inside that circle, isn't it?
Yes.
You got to think in 3D. You can't think of it just on a 2-dimensional XY axis.
Right.
You got to look at it like it's a sphere.
Yeah.
Okay, so the baby's in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the outside is actually the vessel or the thing the baby's traveling in from to that ship. That ball is the boat that the baby is in.
It's like a trippy spaceship ride for this tiny consciousness.
But you because you weren't here, and if you picture yourself, you and I are standing on the edge of an ocean, and we look way out across the water, and we see a boat just showing up on the horizon. We don't have any clue, but it's so small, but we can barely see it with our telescopes. That's where we're at here. This thing is way off in the distance in time and space. It's in the womb. It might be right next to you with your sister, if you know what I mean. But in reality, in the womb, this thing is so far away from where we are today. It's way, way out there.
Yeah.
So you got this inside this little boat that's in the waters of Mother. This little boat, this round ball is the boat, and inside is the ship captain known as the fetus. Let me tell you right now that's Noah and his ark.
Huh.
Noah is the fetus, and the ark is the boat or the vessel that Noah is traveling in. And he's in the waters of Mother. The tempest of birth is actually the flood. This whole damn thing is the inside the womb is all Old Testament. Outside the womb is all New Testament.
Interesting.
So it's so amazing, and it's so easy once you get it.
Wow.
So I'm inside this boat. I'm inside the boat. I'm connected to the boat. As 9 months, as it progresses over the time, let's say in the first 2 weeks. My boat, by the way, the conceptus, is me and everything it's the boat and everything inside. That's called pre-implantation. In other words, it's on the water. It's on the sea by itself. It's completely disconnected, and it's not attached. So it's not attached to anything. It's free floating. By the way, it's perfect. It's unmixed, untouched. It is exactly as God intended it to be. It's perfection. Here we go. About 10 to 14 days, this beautiful, clean creation attaches to the wall of the uterus.
It takes that long?
10 to 14 days.
Wow.
So this thing's out at sea on its own for 10 to 14 days.
Okay.
By the way, a side note. The United States, this is U.S. Department of Health says that the United States acknowledges a pre-implantation fetus.
Huh.
So the United States, now it sounds like I'm splitting hairs here. Kurt, why does the United States even talk like this? It's because what did God create? God created the zygote, which resulted in that conceptus. That's God's creation.
Yeah.
And so you got man developing inside this ball, inside this boat. This protective coating, this protective shell, however you got to think of it.
Yeah.
And now, so this ball then gets lodged into the wall of the uterus.
Is this like
so think of this,
landing on the Mount Sinai or whatever?
You got it.
Yay.
So this boat then lands in the motherland. I'm going to use the word
Literally,
mother.
Yeah.
I'm using the wall of the uterus it's this vessel, ground control to Major Tom. This capsule, if you dare, has now landed on this soil. The soil is the wall of the uterus. And it's a wall in many ways later on in life. But I'm going to say once this implants into the wall of the uterus, people don't understand that legally, in the 1960s with Roe v. Wade, what they did is they redefined even the word pregnant to mean implantation.
Oh.
In other words, and conception now means once it implants into the wall of the uterus. Most people, that's why I tell people, never use the word conception, because conception means that this beautiful, pristine ball that God created, they're saying conception now is when this thing goes implanted. It's implanted into the wall of the uterus.
So
that's conception legally now.
So they're still giving up that 2 weeks.
Yes. In other words, conception doesn't include creation. It's missing.
Yeah.
So when they speak in courtrooms about conception, when they speak about pregnancies, they're speaking 10 to 14 days after the actual act of creation.
Wow.
Why would they do that?
Yeah.
Because they're eliminating God and they're eliminating life. They're eliminating man. Because once this thing goes into the wall of the uterus, it changes the equation. By the way, I want you to think about the word implant. An implant, an alien implant, or an implantation to become part of a plantation. All of these things are actually legitimate now. I'm going to jump ahead just for a second here. Think about this. Think about an implant, the greatest alien implant of all time would be an idea in your head. Think of it. It's not even physical. If I believe in a birth date, that's an implant. And if I act upon that birth date, it's the greatest implant they could have ever created, because I'm going to defend that as if it were true, because everybody else believes it too. That's that's an implant. People don't understand ideas are implants too.
And ideas are hard to kill.
Anyway, you can say something.
Oh, just that.
Well, this is so horrifying.
It's pernicious.
So here's why I'm splitting hairs here. The word matrix means mother.
Yeah.
So when people talk about being in the matrix, they're talking about the moment of implantation. They're not talking about the time before that.
Interesting.
So the matrix is mother. The matrix is mother's material. So upon implantation, we have found ourselves in the Matrix. In the movie The Matrix, what you see is the very beginning. It shows these people in the pods all connected, and they call it the Matrix. The reality is, and I'm gonna biologically explain the Matrix so all the people that are using that term finally know what it actually means.
Yay.
So for those people that are out there using, Kurt, I want to get out of the Matrix. Sorry, dude, you're not in the Matrix. You're standing right next to me.
You've been gone for a long time.
Yeah. But here's how this works. And this is why I am so adamant about spending all the time in the biology. By the way, all the philosophy, all the cool shit's here too. Everything's here. It's outside of time. There's no calendar for any moment in the womb. Yeah. It's all beyond time. God is outside of time. Reality is outside of time. Nature doesn't care about calendars. I've never looked out at my trees all around me. There's no calendars hanging on these things. They don't care what day it is. You know what I mean? So nature is where we're physically, biologically part of nature. We have denied nature by claiming this birth date, this alien implant.
Yeah.
So here we go. You got a good picture of this thing now adhering to the wall of the uterus?
Yes.
Now, I want you to understand why I'm so adamant about mom and dad. The wall of the uterus doesn't need to be mom, does it? They could actually take that conceptus and plant it into a surrogate, couldn't they?
True.
So the wall of the uterus could be not mom, but it would be mother, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
People don't understand how important it is to understand that my mom contributed 23 chromosomes, but they could take the conceptus out of my mom and put it into another female and plant it into her uterus, and now I got a surrogate mother.
And now they can even supposedly, allegedly take it and put it into a plastic bag of goo, and that'll work too, apparently.
Well, that's what's so funny about the wall of the uterus and what ultimately becomes the placenta, the maternal placenta. I'm very clear on this, is that wall of that goo that you just spoke of could be in a bag. They don't have any way to describe the maternal placenta. They don't have a way to even explain how it's created.
That's awesome.
And by the way, what's so cool about this is that when that conceptus buries itself in the wall, understand that until that occurs, mom isn't doing anything. I mean, once it goes into the wall of the uterus, then mother creates all of this stuff that then helps that conceptus along to full term. The idea is that nothing happens until that happens, meaning it's specific and being built. That material is exclusive to this event. It doesn't exist before it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say mother actually creates this environment so that gases and nutrients can be passed between this. By the way, the blood never crosses. There's mom's stuff never mixes with baby, ever.
That's crazy.
It's two separate ownerships.
Yeah.
You got the wall of the uterus, which belongs to mom, and then you have the conceptus, which belongs to me. This is my stuff. It's unique to me, and I can prove it biologically, which means it's reasonable to make the claim. Scientifically, I can prove it. So here's what's funny. I'm going to jump ahead just for a second to the birth, the actual event, the arrival, the moment of arrival.
Okay.
So you got to picture this ball is in the wall of the uterus, but inside the ball is the ship captain, right?
Right. I just love thinking of him with a little captain hat on.
Absolutely, yeah. So he's in there, and remember that all of a sudden during the tempest of birth, it's like a shipwreck. His boat breaks apart, and he's thrown overboard, so to speak. And so now he arrives at the port of entry or at the port of exit, depending on how you look at this. Baby comes out of mom. Ship captain comes out of mom. He's now separated from his boat, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's still attached to it by umbilical, right?
Right. He's got his life ring or something.
Separated from it. Yeah, he's separated from it. So here's my question before we go any further. Ship captain comes out of mom. We see it as baby. There's an umbilical cord attached at his navel, and it goes into mom still, and it's attached to what will be called the placenta or the afterbirth.
The afterbirth, yeah.
Here's the question. Baby, umbilical, and extra embryonic material that's still attached to the wall. How many things are there? Baby, umbilical, and extra embryonic. How many things are there?
Okay, again, you could say 3, but they're all still 1 at that moment.
It's only one. It's always only one. There's only one thing. And here's what happens. This is the horror. When they clamp the umbilical and they cut it, it's called an avulsion. avulsion. That avulsion, that cutting, is actually a forced separation of baby from his property.
I'm have physical pain at the thought. I hate that. I just, because there's still stuff coming through it. There's still nutrients coming in, and
it's a crime. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a crime. It's actually a violent crime.
It is.
And here you got this baby, this perfectly healthy, super innocent position is now being subjected. I call it, a ritualistic dismemberment.
Seriously. Yeah.
That's
I'm with
what
you.
I call it. It's
I'm
a
totally
ritualistic dismemberment.
Yes.
And so when they cut this thing, they're taking the evidence of my origin. They're actually taking the umbilical back to the extra embryonic material is the shell that I was in, the boat I was in. That's the evidence of my true godly origin.
Yeah.
Because when I come out of the womb, they separated me from that. Now I don't have it. Also, when they avulse that, when they cut it and carry it away, that's a violent crime. The carrying away of it is actually larceny. It's multiple things. It's conversion. It's all kinds of legal.
There's all kinds of crimes going on.
Oh, there's all kinds of crimes going on right there at that port of entry. What I'm getting at.
Can I ask a question first, and you can tell me if you're going to already get to this, and then we can get to it at that time instead. But at some point, it would separate anyway, even if they didn't avulse it and didn't, force the separation. So.
Right, but where would it happen? It would happen out here in this world, wouldn't it?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
In other words, all of me would have been delivered.
Right.
All of me would have come through that port.
Oh, they cut it before the afterbirth has even come out?
When they cut it while it's still in mom.
Oh God, that's even worse than I imagined. I'm gonna barf.
So let me do something here. I'm gonna go to the Merriam-Webster definition of delivery. Okay.
Okay.
This is right online. Anybody can follow along with this. I just went to delivery. I'm going to go to the medical definition of delivery. You got to scroll down a little bit. So here it says, medical definition of delivery. The act of giving birth, the expulsion or extraction. Here it is. The expulsion or extraction of a fetus and its membranes. A delivery is a fetus and its membranes.
Wow.
So when they cut it, when they avulse it, did they deliver us?
No.
Did they? Is that a completed delivery?
No.
No, it's illegal on multiple levels. My point is that if you ordered a case of 24 of something from Amazon, and when you got it, when it was sitting on your porch out front, and it was that box was busted open, and there's only 16 bottles of something, did you get what you ordered?
No.
No. Well, neither did we at the hospital. They actually withheld a piece of us for some other nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
And what I'm getting at is, so the delivery never occurred.
God.
It's an incomplete delivery, but it's also known as a partial birth abortion.
Wow.
Because the part is not allowed to exit the womb, that's an abortion.
Yeah.
So when they cut it, and they have this piece of me that's alive, it is alive.
It is alive.
It is alive, but they aborted its progress. When they cut it and they don't allow it into the future or into this world, they aborted it.
Yeah.
Now there's two positions. There's actually two positions. There's me outside the womb as baby, and then my baggage and effects or my property was aborted. But now there's two positions. There's actually an unborn abortion, and then there's a born baby. They created the duality right there.
Yeah.
And then they put they titled the abortion. By the way, people don't realize it, but babies don't have any paper. No birth records exist for a baby. There's no paper for the baby. There's only paper for the baggage and effects of the abortion. Huh. That's what they title. Think about it as you and I are going through the airport and you look down at your bags and it says Samsonite.
Okay.
That's the same thing. They labeled the bag, the body bag, the bag we were in, the shell that we were in. That's our bag. That's our babe. That's the body bag.
It is.
That's the shell. That's the boat. They gave it a title, and they kept it for themselves.
Wow.
Now, what did they keep? They kept evidence of our godly origin for themselves, and they put it in what they call an "In God We Trust."
They call it an in God we trust.
There it is.
I thought you were saying, I thought you said in godly trust. I'm like, they admit it's ungodly. Okay, I'm with you now.
but ultimately, here's the sad part: is people don't realize that the birth date is the evidence of that event. It's actually evidencing the crime. But because we don't know any better, because this is the ultimate deception, it's the ultimate alien implant. It's the implant is in our head. It's a belief system that allows them to do something with that property. Here we go.
Yeah.
Jesus. Ready?
Ready.
When you hear somebody say, "He walks on water," what kind of a vision do you get? What actually walks on water? What's the only thing in our existence that would walk on water? What would you call it?
Like an insect?
A boat.
Oh, yes.
Nice try, though. No, you see, what I'm
I tried really hard.
is that the thing we were in allowed us to exist on the water, in the water. In fact, it was part of our existence.
Yeah.
The boat we were in, the extra embryonic material, is our boat, and we were the ship captain. And so that boat, the boat we were in, was left behind as if it were a shipwreck. It's a vessel that we're no longer claiming. When they cut it off of us, what they did is they created a boat. It's our boat. God created it, but they took it as an abandoned vessel. And then they pick it up through eminent domain or whatever, they condemn it. There's all kinds of crazy things they do with it. What I'm getting at is, I want to explain Jesus.
Yeah.
So while I'm in the boat, I'm all one unit, I'm all connected, and I'm whole, WHOLE.
Yes.
Or they would call it holistic. I'm holistic.
Holistic.
When they cut me, they separate me from my boat. Now the ship captain's over here and the boat's over there. Now here's what's interesting. When the afterbirth comes out, it does arrive at a different time. They give it a personhood status through a legal term called born alive. Now, because everything out of mother at this point, they actually say that a product of conception. Now, I just said conception means implantation.
Yeah.
And conception's not fertilization.
Right.
So born alive is the material that comes out of mother as a product of conception.
Wow.
And it's not baby.
Right.
Is baby a product of conception, or is baby a product of fertilization?
Yeah. See,
look at what they've done to us.
Yeah.
They got us even using the word conception.
Right.
By the way, theirs is truly an immaculate conception, a perfect idea. That's what immaculate conception means, just so you know. You know, like the biblical concept.
Immaculate conception. Yeah.
Yeah, it just means perfect idea. It's an idea that we can't even fathom because we're so steeped in this nonsense. Here we go. So remember that this ball went into the matrix. It went into the wall of the uterus, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it stayed there. So if you can think of that ball sitting in that matrix, and then it opens up and baby comes out. Now baby is attached to the remaining material by an umbilical cord. I mean, if you can picture this, it's pretty easy. So, but then baby, he comes out of the boat, still attached to that material, but that material is still attached to the wall of the uterus, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but baby comes out. There's a cord running back into mother, and it's still attached to the wall. So baby's out, a cord running through, and then this other material still attached to the wall. So baby's both born and unborn at that very moment. Because remember, it's all one thing, isn't it?
This is like Schrodinger's cat.
It is. Think about this. So baby's out and baby's in, because it's all one thing. Yeah, it is. It's superposition. You don't think that superposition nonsense was created specifically so they could explain these two positions, when in reality that's not possible.
Yeah, good call.
So what they're doing is they're getting us to believe in this pseudoscience, this nonsense, because nothing can be in two places at once.
And because there's something obviously critical about our belief in it and our agreement with it, or else they wouldn't go to these lengths to confuse the crap out of us.
Absolutely. So they get us, they create this pseudoscience. They talk about it as if, because we all want to be, brilliant. We all want to be the smartest. We all want to. I mean, I know people that will just listen to people because these people are brilliant. They don't know a goddamn thing. They don't even understand what's being said, but they're going, yeah. I'm going, you idiots. You know what? I mean, I can tear this thing up. I can actually disprove everything you just said. But you want to seem intellectual, so you're going to show up and you're going to listen to that nonsense. The reality is none of it's true. That's the hard part about this stuff, is that I'm going to explain JESUS right now. And realize that a belief in JESUS actually creates the problem. It creates the very thing that requires salvation. The belief forces the salvation upon you. It's unbelievable. So here we go. Here's your boat. Remember, you got this whole thing in the wall of the uterus. Baby, the ship captain's still in there. Water breaks. Ship captain falls out of the boat, comes through the womb, and now he's baby Curtis. But baby Curtis still has the umbilical cord attached to him, and it goes into mom. So it's traversing two worlds.
Yeah.
Right now, my property's still back there. It's back there in the womb. So I'm both born and unborn at that very moment. I'm both.
You're the alpha and the omega.
I'm both. Yeah, I'm the front end and the back end. The point is that what's in mom is the evidence of the origin. Outside the womb is the New Testament. Inside the womb is the Old Testament. It's the Garden of Eden. It's all that nonsense. The point is that when they cut the umbilical, they have now separated. Now there is an unborn and a born position. There is actually physically two different positions.
Yeah.
And the problem is by allowing those two positions to exist, the unborn is an abortion. And of all abortions are subject to the ecclesia. So the moment they cut that material, the biology, which is a born alive person according to the legal system, that person becomes a foundling child subject to the state.
Mm-hmm. And this is the material that's still in the womb, or the baby itself?
Yes. It would be the umbilical plus the placenta.
Okay.
Now, so let's say baby gets wrapped in his swaddling clothes and he gets carried off to see mom and dad. We have this other material now, the umbilical cord and the placenta. So now the placenta is delivered. I don't know, 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later. I don't even care. Doesn't matter. It's delivered separately. What is the placenta? The placenta is a feto-maternal organ. Remember that the ship was in the wall of the uterus. The wall of the uterus is the island or the land mass. The boat is the extraembryonic material that is adhering to it. So when the placenta comes out as a fetal maternal organ, you got the boat and you got a piece of ground. You got a piece of the ground. The ground is the maternal, it's part of the wall of the uterus. It's the maternal placenta is my mom's property. The feto extraembryonic, the boat, is my property. Mm-hmm. And yet they're bound together as if they're one thing.
Yeah.
How many owners? How many owners would you expect then, at knowing that, how many owners are there to the placenta?
I guess 2.
2, mom and baby, right?
Yeah.
Mom and baby. This is important because if they only create one title with 2 potential owners, they're going to create adversity, aren't they?
Mm.
Where now people can argue over whose property is. So if Curtis Richard Kallenbach is a title over that second coming, that second delivery, then my mom can argue that it's her property, and I can argue it's my property. Now, if I abandon it or don't even know about it, then I forget about it, well, then whoever's representing my mom, i.e. the Roman Catholic Church or whatever, they're going to make a claim on that property. And what are they actually claiming? They're claiming Curtis Richard Kallenbach.
Yeah.
And if they're claiming Curtis Richard Kallenbach, and they have all the attorneys and judges and everybody working towards that side,
and
what's the likelihood I'm going to ever have any property in my name? No, because everything I do is through that certificated person. So when I go to work, all of my labor is going through that character, right?
Right.
And if they own the character, they own the product of that character, don't they?
Yeah.
Everything. If that is a character or a conduit through which all of my labor and property is traveling, guess who has a legitimate claim on everything I ever do my entire life?
The thieves.
Well, you could say that. Now, here's what's really fun about this. I love doing this biological side. So you got this placenta. Understand there's two owners. There's fetal property and there's maternal property. Two owners. Here's what's fun about this. How old is the fetal property?
At that moment?
Yeah, just rough guess. Roughly how old?
15 minutes?
9 months.
Oh, yeah.
It's 9 months old.
Sorry.
Yeah.
See, I'm stuck in this.
So it's about 9 months old. It was created at fertilization. This unique DNA that is the extra-embryonic fetal afterbirth is about 9 months old, isn't it?
Yes.
And who's the father of that fetal afterbirth?
Oh.
My dad.
It should be your dad.
It is my dad. I mean, didn't he put his 23 chromosomes and leave it at the job site?
Yeah.
So my dad is the father of the extra embryonic material. He's the father. He's my dad. Because that material is me, same exact DNA. That's my dad, and it's dad. It's all one thing. So I shouldn't say we because it's only I. There's only me. There is no we. There is no that person over there that's born alive called Curtis Richard Kallenbach and me. There's not two of me, but they created two positions just right there and then. So it's only me. We have this. It's even hard for me. Don't think it isn't. There's only one dad to that genetic material. Got it?
Got it.
Now here's what's really interesting. Who's the dad to the maternal afterbirth?
I'm guessing the state or the church has claimed that then.
Well, wait a minute. It's my mom's DNA, right?
Right.
So who created my mom's DNA? My grandpa and grandma, right?
Right.
So the father of my mom's DNA is my grandpa on my mom's side.
Okay.
Two different fathers right off the bat. So the placenta has two different dads. My dad for the fetal and my mom's dad for her property. How old is my mom's DNA? Well, she was 21 when I was born. So the maternal afterbirth is 21 years old and the fetal afterbirth is 9 months old. Is that thing a monstrosity or what?
Yeah.
So the placenta is a really strange beast. It's a mixture of both baby and mom.
It's like a chimera.
Here's the crazy part. It is a chimera. I use that word in one of my letters. And here's the best part is, according to the church and according to what they've created, if you can picture my mom's DNA and the fetal DNA, it's stuck together. It comes out as one unit. They're completely different materials, meaning that the DNA never mixes. In fact, there's an obvious differentiation between the extra-embryonic material and the maternal placenta. The maternal placenta is very spongy. It's very it's the swamp, whereas the baby's property is very hard and shiny. It's tough. Two completely different elements. Here's what's weird about this is because of the born alive concept, the maternal can be viewed as a uterine sister. In other words, born of the same mother but a different father. So now you have the placenta as having the female side of it, or my mom's side, is a uterine sister to my property, which would look like a twin of me.
Yeah.
So you got this extra embryonic twin, and a uterine sister attached to each other, and then there's me as baby. Look what they've done biologically.
Yeah.
Now the best part about this is that the placenta is both my mom and the baby. It's mom and baby still attached. They're still attached to each other biologically. The placenta is mom's property, mom's DNA, and baby's property still attached. That is Madonna and child. So the placenta represents Madonna and child. So it is one unit as a mother and child. And it remains that way forever in their history, in their records, which is why baby disappears. We don't have any rights because they're using that material. By the way, does that material live or die? It dies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it becomes a decedent property as well. And it dies without a will, so it dies intestate. So its existence goes to probate. It is subject to the state as a foundling child because they found it, and it's the product. No parents claimed it. So now it becomes a ward of the courts and the states all by itself, but it's all based upon the separation from me. If they allowed nature to run its course, it would have all come out, attached to me. It would have all been delivered into the new world.
Yeah.
There would have been no old world, new world. There wouldn't be an aborted property and baby. None of that would exist if they allowed nature to run its course.
Right.
This is so important because once they abort that property, here's the problem. The ecclesia has all the rights over that aborted material. They initiate it into their Christian cult. And now they convert it. It's called a conversion. So they convert that material to a church-based character, and that is where JESUS comes in. Remember, who walks on water? The boat.
The boat.
And Jesus, right?
Right.
They take that material, the extra embryonic material, which is the vessel or the boat that got us here. It got us here. It got us from God to here. It got us from fertilization all the way to the new world, didn't it?
Yeah.
Did it, and this sounds funny, did it sacrifice its life to get us here? If you look at it as a separate entity, as a separate person, right?
Right.
It gave up its life to get us to the new world, didn't it?
So that we may live, yeah.
And so the vessel, the boat that we have taken for granted, because once we come out of the womb, we don't even remember that stuff, do we? No, it's called forsaken. We have forsaken our boat, haven't we?
Yeah.
Now, here's what's interesting. I'm going to actually explain, I'll jump ahead a little bit. The French word, by the way, the French are so deeply involved in this. This is all Jesuit nonsense. It's all Ignatius Loyola creation. I mean, his whole goal was to separate man from his soul. That was his whole idea from the beginning, let's say.
And
they did it. They've actually done it.
If I may just interject, it seems as though this is it's like the physical is paralleling the psychological, is paralleling the emotional and the spiritual. It's like they're all, the ways that they're trying to divide us from our soul are happening on all of those fronts simultaneously, and I'm guessing in a way that's connected.
Yeah, they actually made it true. They made the story true,
right,
biologically. So the boat we came in on, the very thing that gave us life, it got us here. By the way, it only existed between fertilization, the act of creation, and all the way to the exit from the womb, didn't it?
Yes.
So it works inside that space, that unaccountability space. It works in there, but it got us from God to here. It also can get us from here back to God.
Yeah.
It becomes the middleman between us and God. So they take this biological property, this boat, they take it for themselves, they give it a denomination, first, middle, last, whatever, they call it an individual. And that is the character that makes us whole. The boat is the rest of our existence, isn't it? It is actually the rest of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we want to be atoned or at one or given absolution to be made whole, we need our boat, don't we?
Yes.
So in order for us to be all the way, for our continuity from fertilization to this moment as you and I speak, we need the boat, don't we?
Yes.
If we don't have the boat, there's a space between creation and the birth date, and that is a space that is unaccountable. So that's where Jesus exists. Jesus is the boat. Now here's the thing. So the boat sacrificed itself to get us here. Jesus apparently sacrificed himself, so that we could be clear of all sin and all that nonsense.
Right.
There is no such thing as sin. Anyway, but here's the amazing thing. You and I, as we speak right now, this is the present moment, isn't it?
Yes.
And this present is, if we were to actually identify ourselves in a present, we would, or a presence of being, or our person in being, we would say, I am.
Yes.
And I am in French is J-E-S.
Je suis.
It's je suis. J-E. I'm going to say it. I'm going to space this out.
Okay.
J-E space S-U-I-S, right?
Yes.
Je suis. And that means I am in French.
Right. It does.
If I take my I, if I take my presence out of je suis, the I, which is me, which is my presence, if I take J-E-S-U-I-S and I remove my presence, meaning the I, what am I left with?
Jesus.
I'm left with J-E-S-U-S, right?
Right.
Jesus is the boat without the captain.
Oh my goodness.
So when you add the captain back to the boat, you got je suis, which is your presence, or I am, which is absolution. So what they've done is they've sold us a boat without a ship captain. They call it Jesus. And that boat is the only way we can get back to God, because it's the evidence of God. The boat itself is the extra embryonic material. It's the vessel we arrived in. So if you think about J-E-S-U-S, it's the boat without my presence, because I'm not there anymore. I'm not back there anymore, am I?
Right.
The only way I can get back to that boat is mentally through memory. And because we can't actually remember being in the womb, what they did is they created a piece of paper that evidences that event, that arrival. The problem is they control the record. They control the paper. But when you understand things at this level, when you speak about your godly origin being fertilization, there's continuity again, isn't there? If I say to anybody my godly origin is fertilization, does their paperwork have any weight?
I don't think so. Not to me.
If I say my godly origin is fertilization, then even though they cut the umbilical cord, it's still my property, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, when you understand it at this level, that your godly origin, your Darwin God connection is fertilization, is the origin, the zygote is the product, and that's your entire estate. When you understand that one thing at the very front end, if they make a claim upon your baggage, if they make a claim upon that cut segment, that abortion, it's human trafficking. It's the best thing ever. So because what they did is they created a person to traffic. That person is stuck in between born and unborn. It's called interstate. And that's where all persons are trafficked, interstate. It's interstate traffic.
Yeah. So really, literally, all you have to do is know what you're talking about, know yourself, and all of their bullshit is undone.
All the way. You have to know it so simply. You know, I mean, I've actually written some things that differentiate my property from the placenta, because if I allow the placenta to remain attached to me, in theory, I'm trespassing on my mom's property. In theory. So now, when you look at the screen, because you can't see me, can you?
Nope.
What are you looking at? Do you have like Yosemite Sam, or what do you got up there right now?
It's just the
I'm
screen.
joking, yeah.
It's a screen with just me. People can see me, and then next to me is just a square that says Curtis Kallenbach.
Oh, I should have sent you some really cool cartoons or something.
Well, I actually I was going to do a screenshot of your site that you have like a title page and put that up there, but it wasn't working, and then we were kind of late, so I just scrapped it. So let
me explain. So this JESUS thing, this boat that walks on water, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what's interesting about that. What they did is there's what's called a cult of personality.
Yes.
So they create this cult, this person that they created, this ideal is the personality. And it's perfection. Because when you have the boat and your presence of mind, the ship captain and the ship are all one unit now, aren't they?
Yes.
And now you have your boat. And with your boat, you can travel anywhere in the world.
Yes.
The problem is if you're a captain without a boat, a couple things go wrong. Number one, you can't go anywhere. You're stuck. And two, your boat is a derelict vessel. It can't move without the ship captain. So again, what did they do? They created a berth for your boat, and they created a birth certificate that evidences where the boat is located in its berth. The boat is in the berth. Yes. I don't have a birth certificate. I'm a living being. I don't have one. Right. The boat has a birth certificate because the boat's in its berth right now. I don't know where it's located. They actually, again, when they took my boat from me, they hid it from me.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did with it.
Who knows what
but
they
anyway,
do with it.
Yeah, well, you know what? They do a lot of things with it. And most of it is called trafficking.
Yeah.
But the cult of personality is an amazing thing because there's an actual religious term. It's called apotheosis.
Yes.
And apotheosis is a religious concept of cult of personality. Let me read this. It says, apotheosis is Greek for to deify. Right. In Latin, it says to make divine, also called divinization. It's the glorification of a subject to divine level. Yeah. They turned the extra embryonic material into JESUS. They made it divine, and then they control the divinity of that character. So we have to kiss the ring and bend a knee for absolution in these courtrooms and things like that because we have abandoned God. Indirectly, by leaving our boat back there, we have lost our way. We have actually made it impossible for us to make a claim upon God or man because our origin is fertilization. The birth record identifies at the point or the port of entry, which has nothing to do with substance. It's all narrative from that point. It's a story.
Yeah.
It's all story, and it's tied to a date, a timeline, a fictitious time machine. And that's where who rules over time? Chronos, Father Time, Saturn. So the Saturnian cult is ruling over all the time-bound characters that are born to the calendar, the Gregorian-based calendar. And the craziest thing of all is that the Gregorian calendar, known as the civil calendar, which is the commercial calendar, it starts at the year 1. So what happened all the time from 0 to 1?
Yeah.
It's missing, isn't it?
Right. We just go from -1 to 1.
Yeah, you go from 0 all the time in the womb, all the evolutionary time in the womb, and all of a sudden year 1, and here we are. No, that's not how it works. We actually evolved during that time in the womb. We did exist physically, but we're on no historical document because that's prehistoric.
I love that.
It's cool, isn't it?
It is cool.
So they made divine the boat. because it's the only thing that evidences our godly origin. When baby comes out, we have, a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, and you know what I mean? We look like that 5-pointed star. The problem is the material that was left behind is the actual evidence of our godly connection. But they have that in their possession. And then they say, oh, by the way, this is Jesus. And the only way you can get to God is through the Son, through Jesus. And we have Jesus as a hostage. Because that's what Jesus is. Jesus is a hostage.
Wow.
Cool?
Yeah, that's really powerful. So I guess...
So, I would rather just, you got to have a ton of questions.
Yeah, well, one of them is, some people in the chat were saying, like, well, what's the point? Like, who cares? Like, what, I can't go back and undo it, and what would it change, and so what would you say is the point?
How about something as simple as the truth will set you free?
Yeah, because I mean, in my idea of it, like the way you're describing it and laying it out too, it's like this is a lie that we've been sold and that we believe, and so even if you're operating under that sort of incorrect belief system, and that's the way that you're operating in the world, your every action and every breath and everything you're doing is all coming from that place, and it's just like how you want to kind of see through the sort of fear programming that we have. Like if you're operating out of fear, then everything you're doing is coming from that place. It's like coloring all of your experiences. And aside from the idea that like the truth will set you free and that this is something that you want to do is live in truth, is like you want to start to learn to live in a way that is in more accordance with the truth. If I said that well at all.
Well, the thing though is, if I woke up every morning, I'm doing something here too, but if I woke up every morning and there it is, and I put on the clothing of Harry Potter, and I went out the door and answered to Harry Potter, "Hey Harry, what's up?" But I was actually wearing his clothes, and I pretended to be Harry Potter all day, and I collected all my money as Harry Potter. Who owns all the money?
Harry Potter.
J.K. Rowling. Because J.K. Rowling created Harry Potter.
True.
Harry Potter doesn't have any rights because Harry Potter's he doesn't exist at all. He's just a character. So the creator of Harry Potter has now, through me, is making all the royalties for the expression of Harry Potter, no different than the expression of Curtis Richard Kallenbach. Curtis Richard Kallenbach is no different than Harry Potter. It's owned and it's a creation of the state.
Right.
So when you understand that Curtis Richard Kallenbach doesn't exist except as an abortion, if you understand that fertilization negates the abortion, so Curtis Richard Kallenbach has to go. He can't exist. The first, middle, last, and all that nonsense that requires licensing and all that. IRS, by the way, will leave you alone forever. The point is that when you understand the truth of the matter, then all the symptoms disappear. If I ask you, what would you rather have? The cure to cancer or no possibility of cancer?
No possibility of cancer.
Absolutely.
Time.
I just got rid. Do you realize I just went back to the future and I got in front of the fork in the road? That means that all of the things that can go wrong because of the certificated person can never happen. And even if they did happen in 59 years, guess what? They have to go back to the beginning and undo it. Even though I lost 59 years of my life, I got in front of the fork in the road. And now the fork never existed. Yeah. I time traveled back to what moment?
Fertilization.
Because, right. But what moment was it when that happened?
Now.
It was now. Does life exist at any other moment? No. So this is a succession of nows from your origin, which is fertilization. By the way, what day was it when that fertilization occurred? It was today.
Oh, yes.
Because when mom and dad lay together, what day was it? It was today.
True.
It wasn't yesterday for them, and it wasn't tomorrow for them. It was today, meaning that all God, all life exists only in the present moment, which is on no calendar anywhere in the world. So reality trumps, no pun intended, reality trumps everything. Reality gets you out of everything. I mean, if I told you right now there was a giant black spider behind you because I'm reading it on a page, would you be afraid?
No.
No, because it's on a page. It's fictitious.
Yeah.
Even though it's the scariest thing I've ever read in my life. And I'm telling you right now, my God, it says right here, there's a black spider on your shoulder. It doesn't exist.
Right.
Everything we are experiencing is because we're living a lie. Everything. So when somebody asks me, what about driver's license? I don't care. See, you got to realize that if your motive is tainted, if you're trying to get something, again, if I ask you, if the truth will set you free, do you seek freedom or truth?
Truth.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's why people don't understand that the answer is to get in front of the fork in the road.
Yeah.
And the only way in front of the fork in the road is to go all the way back to the true beginning, which is fertilization. And every scientist, every embryologist on planet Earth will agree that life begins at fertilization, regardless of Roe v. Wade or anybody else's belief systems. They're not required. Fertilization is the beginning. It's in front of the fork, and it gives you both God and man, which is right now what everybody's devoid of. You don't have a claim to man because you didn't claim that. You let it go. You severed it. Man has been aborted. Man has been aborted. By claiming a birthday, you've aborted man.
Yeah. And you don't have any of your rights, really, if you're not man. If you're not a living man.
There's two things. This is fun stuff. I'm going to go to the etymology of the word federal. Kurt, federal, my God, they're the enemy. Federal, the enemy. The United States is the enemy, Kurt.
The feds.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. I will side with the feds every time. Because the etymology of the word federal is man's in reference to covenants between God and man.
Really?
So when you understand, absolutely. What? When you understand that your covenant between God and man begins at fertilization, and you understand that when you claim fertilization, the covenant is intact, and now you have the laws of nature and nature's God on your side. See, everybody thinks this is about making these ridiculous claims on paper. It isn't. It's knowing thyself in thine proper proportion. So that's federal, and I'm going to go to a court case right now. It's called Brown versus Maryland. Brown v. Maryland. Wow, Maryland sounds like Madonna and Child, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Brown v. Maryland. 1827. This is so telling. If you know, again, that the etymology of federal is man's covenant with God or God's covenant with man, I'm going to go to Brown v. Maryland, Wikipedia. I'm going to read one line out of here. It says, Chief Justice John Marshall delivered the opinion of the court, ruling that Maryland's statute violated the import, export, and commerce clauses, and the federal law was supreme. So the federal law is man's covenant with God. We're talking about man's rights, unalienable rights based on God. The, T-H-E, means theos or God, so the law is God's law, and it supersedes everything else. If it doesn't follow God's law, it doesn't happen. Statutes, codes, rules, all that nonsense, out the window. The moment you reclaim God is the moment you're protected at the highest level at the federal government. By the way, isn't the federal also called what? Original jurisdiction, right?
Oh, wow.
Isn't the federal courts are original jurisdiction? Does that not sound like fertilization to you?
Yeah.
The federal government's protecting God. We've all abandoned God, just so you know. Finally, there's another line in here that says this. This is Chief Justice John Marshall alleged that the power of a state to tax goods, by the way, the definition of goods is the unborn of animals, just so you know. The power of a state to tax goods did not apply if those goods remained in their original package. That's the conceptus.
Wow.
So when you understand that as long as the gift from God remains intact, which is everything from fertilization, if you don't abandon the boat, the federal government will protect you. All of the shit that's going on down at the state level, the local level, all this nonsense, everything going wrong will go away.
Wow.
But Kurt, no, we got to do this. We got to change our status. No, you don't. You've never been anything but whole. The problem is you just abandoned the boat that gets you back to God. And the fact is you never can abandon it because you can't abandon your DNA. So the point is that when you know fertilization is your godly origin, then everything else follows that. If fertilization is your godly origin, the product of that is the zygote, which is your singularity or the entirety of your estate. At that moment, you've claimed the entirety of your estate, and now the federal government will protect all of your interests.
I like that.
If you've ever been in a federal courtroom, you'll realize that is pristine. The federal government is amazing. It's because that's the godly side of the government.
I have been in a federal courtroom, and it was very different from other courtrooms I had been in.
In the 1940s, the government for the godly property was established. It's called the National Security Council, and there was a court case in 1946 or 7, which is I'm not kidding, ever son, like Jesus, ever son versus Board of Education. And that was the official separation of church and state in 1946. And then in 1947, they created the government for the property that has been abandoned, which is the boat.
Wow.
Through the National Security Council. So the National Security Council is actually the government, the one nation under God, which also, again, I know I talk a lot and I talk fast, but one nation under God, doesn't it imply God
as supreme?
If you are not of God, do you suppose you're not part of the one nation under God? Yeah, you're not.
Yeah.
What's the next word, though? What is the next word in the Pledge of Allegiance where it says one nation under God? What's the next word?
Indivisible.
Yes, and look at this. I got this right here. This is right off of Webster's too. The definition of indivisible: one nation under God, which implies God. Indivisible, and here's the definition of indivisible: consisting of one whole whose parts cannot be divided or treated individually. Wow, that almost sounds like you can't abandon your boat.
I'm indivisible.
I
claim my boat
for most people. Yeah, you gotta know your boat. Just know your boat, Michael, so you can row it. Sorry, that's a bad joke, but
know your boat. Oh, know your boat. Claim your boat. Rejoin with God.
And the only way I know to do that, and seriously, you can't claim the boat, because by claiming the boat, it implies separation, doesn't it?
Oh, true. Yes.
So if you claim your godly origin, the boat is included, isn't it?
Claim my godly origin.
So fertilization is your godly origin. There's the answer to everything. Fertilization. Everything else would be trespass. Everything else is trafficking. Everything else is wrong.
This is funny. In the chats, Daryl Miller said, no, your boat.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. But they got us running from it. They say that it's the tree of knowledge, which is the original sin, or eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge. But that implies that the fruit is separate. Think about this. The aborted material is the problem. When they cut the umbilical cord, they create the abortion. But even though they cut the umbilical, if I know my godly origin is fertilization, it doesn't matter what they do with the boat. It's still my property, isn't it? And by implication, it's my property regardless of what they've done. If they've taken my property, it's theft.
Yes.
But I can't claim it if I don't know it exists. If I think I began outside the womb, I've completely abandoned my origin.
Right.
And God. This, by the way, is coming from a non-religious guy.
Yeah. Which is, I think, essential, because that's part of the trap as well. If you get all caught up in that and you can't kind of conceive of all the things that you've talked about here and laid out for us. And I know that you've gone through all of these definitions in different court cases and whatnot, but I know that you also used a lot of that to write a letter and send it to the government, right?
No, my government is Isaiah 9:6, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. So again, when you get back to
Okay.
God, your government is up there in your temple between your ears.
I like that.
You're able to self-govern when you understand your godly origin. So your government, my government, is speaking to you directly right now in heaven.
Right. Okay.
Right now, what you and I are meeting right now, the only place you and I can ever meet, and that's in heaven. And so I can see you, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that the only place you and I can ever work together is in heaven, and it's through the mind.
I love that.
That's it. That's where you and I meet. And that's what people don't understand is heaven is the mind. Consciousness, true consciousness.
It's a beautiful thing. Well, that's another part of why this matters, right? Because you're being truly conscious about who you are and where you are and why you are.
If people understood the simplicity and let it be, just let it be. My greatest fear, no kidding, I have dreams about this, is the divisiveness, divide and conquer on multiple levels, whether it's mind from body or whether it's through belief systems. I mean, the scariest people on earth are the religious zealots.
Yeah.
They're the scariest because there's no reasoning with them. They actually, I can prove Jesus. And the funny thing is the most powerful people in the world are actually using the term a non-biblical Jesus. They actually say it that way, non-biblical Jesus. Well, what's that? That's that's the extra-embryonic boat. So it is Jesus. It is the very thing that gets you back to God. But they don't want to say Jesus because by saying Jesus, it implies the Bible. And by implying the Bible, you take in the owner of the Bible or the one that has laid claim to the Bible as a jurisdictional issue. So when I say Jesus, when I use the word Jesus, by implication, it's New Testament. When I use the word Jesus, by implication, there's a sacrifice that has been made. By using the word Jesus, Jesus has died for my sins. It's all implied. It doesn't actually. I mean, so by using the labels or the words that the magicians have been using for centuries, that it implies a belief, and that belief is the separation. But I know from fertilization that I am the boat. I'm the boat.
Yes.
I'm the boat. That material, that extra embryonic material that covered me, whose DNA was that? Me.
Yeah.
I am the boat. There is no him and me. It's all me.
Which is pretty awesome. All of the
It's pretty awesome.
all of the secret sort of teachings will say that anyways, that you are, you are Jesus. There is no difference. But that's sort of sacrilege to the traditional church. But it's interesting because it's true here in a way.
Well, again, whatever people choose to believe is fine with me.
Yeah.
The problem is when they start to say that I have to do what they're saying based upon their beliefs.
Yeah.
Beliefs are so dangerous, and they're easily gotten rid of in reality.
Yes.
Again, reality doesn't. Squirrels don't have beliefs. They don't care what's going on around them other than danger.
Right.
You know what I mean? They live from day to day. They eat. They do their thing. They do what nature requires of them to exist. But they don't have the same level of consciousness. So again, when a wolf is ripping into a small doe, I mean, is the wolf committing a sin? No, because sin implies a morality or something along those lines. So wolves can't commit murder.
Yeah.
They're just being wolves. But when you add a level of consciousness or morality that's, sorry, Kurt, but that's his wife. You probably shouldn't be dealing that way. Right. That's his house. You probably should leave his stuff alone. That's a consciousness, a self-governing ability to not do. And that's Isaiah 9:6 again, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. So we have to have the capacity for self-government, but they took that away from us and gave it a certificated person. And then we have to beg to get our own boat back or our own government back because we have forgotten. We've forgotten it. We've forgotten God. We have forgotten man. And so we're being punished for it by just being so neglectful.
Yeah. Well, so what would you say that people who are listening could do or should do to help free themselves or be more sovereign?
Well, there is no such thing as more sovereign.
Amen.
You're either, I mean, Abraham Lincoln in his House Divided speech was very clear about that. You're all or no thing. It's all or no thing, meaning that you're all together or you're all apart. And
You're
you
either
can't
sovereign
be,
or you're not.
You can't, and the word, I don't use sovereign very often because of what's happened to it, but sovereign implies wholeness.
Yeah.
In other words, by the way, this is fun stuff. If you know your godly origin is fertilization, then tell me the extent of your kingdom.
Kingdom of God.
Your kingdom is the zygote and everything that implies. So my DNA, the trillions of individual constituent cells, my liver, God bless it, my lungs, my brain, all of these organs that have, I mean, you got to realize that inside my skin is an entire universe happening. I'm the Lord over this universe.
Yes.
I can poison it with alcohol. I can do all kinds of damage to my constituency known as my cells. The point is that my entire estate goes all the way back to fertilization, which is also including the umbilical cord and the extra embryonic material. That was part of my constituency as well. Mm. So my lordship as king, my kingdom, is only my genetic estate. I'm the Lord over this. I'm the sovereign over this biological estate. I'm not the sovereign over anything else. So I'm the king of this universe.
Yes. You just
and that's it.
Are sovereign, right?
This over this material. The problem is
yeah.
by not claiming the entirety or my godly origin, what they've done is they've claimed that piece of me, and they say it's on deposit. Mm-hmm. They're basically saying a piece of my sovereignty is on deposit, and I have deferred some of that authority. But in God's world, nobody speaks for me, ever.
Right.
And my link, it's a direct link between God and I. There's no middleman. The medium that they created with the boat that they have on deposit, they created a medium of exchange. In other words, a middleman. Jesus is a middleman.
Yeah.
And so they're saying that they have authority over the middleman, the New Testament. Well, the New Testament's nothing more than an insurance policy against sin anyway. But again, who's responsible for my life? Whether I eat or don't eat? Who are you? No, I am.
You are.
This is my kingdom.
Right.
So if I wanna act the sovereign or the king over my biological kingdom, the only one that is responsible for this kingdom ever throughout an entire lifetime is me. Well, so I can't even accept benefits. I can't even pretend that you owe me anything.
Right.
Because you don't.
Yes. I mean, that's actually the most crucial understanding to me out of this too, is that you are always going to be the one that's responsible for you, and that you should take that responsibility seriously. And I mean, you should do whatever you want, but you can't really expect anyone else to take care of it for you, I guess, at the very least. And if you do, you're giving that up. I mean, you're giving up your sovereignty, literally. So, and I don't think that most people necessarily consider all the ways in which they might not be taking responsibility for themselves, because I think it gets really, really subtle as well, especially with like interpersonal and emotional sorts of situations. But I think that's like the highest goal that maybe we can have, is besides knowing ourselves fully, is to take full responsibility for ourselves.
Well, the greatest happiness, again, is being able to express the very essence of your being. I mean, I get after people. My wife still to this day says, "Kurt, you got to work on your delivery," because I get after people, and if somebody starts to misspeak or they're saying something, I have to pattern interrupt immediately, because I don't want them to continue down that path. It makes no sense. So belief systems, whether they're patriot or religious or whatever, they need to be pattern interrupted. They need to be stopped. And if somebody continues to speak it into existence,
that makes you a good teacher. I mean, that's what good teachers would do. You're like, stop the misconception where it is and undo it as much as possible before proceeding.
I can't go. I mean, if I even allow that, I have failed.
Right.
So when people say, they talk about status correction, for what? Have you not always been?
Yeah.
Haven't you always existed?
Yes.
Haven't you always been whole?
Right.
Haven't you always been the owner of the boat?
Right.
Weren't you created at fertilization? What part of your status needs to be corrected?
Yeah.
None.
Nothing.
Zero. I fell for it. I was there 11 years ago. But under no circumstances would I allow that nonsense today. This is all property. This whole damn thing is about property. Whose property is it and who can prove it? When you go all the way back to fertilization, remember that the fruits of that product, the fruits of your estate are yours, meaning that everything intellectual that you create, everything you create through your hands or through your womb or through your loins, it doesn't matter. That's all an extension of your kingdom.
Yes.
And that's where sovereignty comes in. And if you don't know God, if you don't know your godly origin, you have completely abandoned sovereignty as well.
Well, and I think another thing is, like, if you do understand all of those things, then the way you act just will change. I mean, the way that you hold yourself and the way that you, claim your property and treat other people and take responsibility for yourself, all those things start to sort of pack onto it. Because I think we underestimate how much our thoughts are the sort of basis of what ends up being our reality, whether you think of that in like sort of a woo-woo way, or whether you think of that as like, I thought it and so then I said it and so then I did it and then it like is a thing that was created. Either way, it's like these are the fundamental places where we need to go digging to sort of amend any issues or problems. Misunderstandings.
Well, the fun thing too is that, I mean, years ago, I remember I used to teach at a Lutheran church, confirmation class for 7th and 8th graders. I only taught for a couple of years because eventually I realized I can't do this to these people anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the greatest days was to walk away from that thing and go, wow, what a mess that was. But the statement that God will provide, again, if I know that I'm directly connected to that act of creation through fertilization, and I know that there's nothing between God and I, so when somebody says God will provide, absolutely. The moment you get your ass up off the couch.
Yeah.
God will provide everything for you as long as you do it.
Yes.
Because that's what God is. God is the spirit inside that human machine. And if that human machine wants to taste the beer, I send my man to the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And my man, my godly instrument, my man pops that thing open and puts that beer on the tongue so that my machine can interpret that flavor and send it up to me.
Yeah.
My man.
Well, and there's corollaries in the spiritual world for all of these ideas as well. The idea that if you divide yourself, you are sort of allowing for something else to own you or take control of you, or to have that sort of ingress into you is the same in the spiritual world as it is in what you're describing here. If you divide your spirit, if you leave a part of your spirit behind somewhere, then supposedly you're leaving access for other entities to come in or something. And it's the same kind of idea. And I want to go back to that. I think that the ideas that you're presenting are true on multiple levels and in parallel ways on all of them, but they all kind of come back to this same root of knowing yourself completely in order to not fall under the sort of spell. When you're describing the man, going to the fridge to get the beer, this is sort of like has a corollary in the magical world as well, where you think it and then you will it into creation and then it becomes reality.
Right, as long as your man gets up his ass up off the couch.
Yes, you have to actually do it.
I could sit there and think about something all day long, but that's called a wish. My wife, I remember my ex-wife, actually her mother said something to me that it took a long time before it actually sunk in, but she said, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. If wishes were horses, beggars would ride, meaning that, if it was easy.
Yeah.
If it was easy. I'm telling you right now that the greatest power, the greatest feeling you could have is to be so stinking honest with yourself that where that if I do this, I already know the outcome. I already know it. I know that this is a bad decision. And this is what's going to happen to me. When you're so honest and you're so in reality that you will not do certain things that you used to do. It's called wisdom. You finally made it. You finally have the wisdom. Sophia, you finally meet Sophia. And now you have wisdom to where you won't do what you did yesterday.
It's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process. It's a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
People, every single day I wake up and go, holy cow, I can't believe I used to think that.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Yeah. Even for a few months later, I'm like, oh, wow, that's different.
Well, anybody that wants to kind of dig into some of this stuff, I do have go to Proton Mail, go to Curtis Kallenbach at Proton Mail, and just ask for my P-Cloud link. I give all of my findings away for free.
That's awesome.
So again, Curtis Kallenbach at protonmail.com, and just ask me for the link, and I'll send you the link. Now, here's the thing. If you want to talk to me, my time's not free. So the only thing I actually charge for is my time. My findings, by the way, there's too much there for most people. I will tell people where to start or what to do. Just stick with something very simple. Follow. If your mind is wrapped around what we've been talking about tonight, you won't have a problem. If you find yourself falling back into a lot of the old documents from 5 years ago or whatever, I was on this trail then. I was always going in the same direction, but some things got cut off and some things got added, and here we are today.
Yeah.
So again, I learn something new every day. Kurt, you said back in 2000, and hey, you know what? Sorry.
Things change.
Catch up.
Yeah.
Catch up.
No, I hope people never use my history of my however many hundreds of videos I have now against me, because I hope people recognize that we're always kind of moving forward. Hopefully we change and we grow and move, because otherwise, what would be the point of any of this?
You just used the word change, though. That's so huge. Look at this. Envision fertilization, 9 months in the womb, all of the incredible things changing.
Yeah.
And I've talked about evolution from that single cell to a full-blown baby. And then fetus. In the womb, it's called a fetus. Fetus crosses the threshold into the present, into this world, and it goes legally from the term fetus to baby.
Huh.
Just like that. There is no fetus outside the womb at that point.
Yeah.
So the port of exit and entry is also a terminal point for the fetus, because the fetus no longer exists until they cut the cord. And now they got another fetus left behind as an abortion, because it's a born alive person. So they got that thing that's a piece of the fetus, that now they have a fetus and a baby. The point is that the continuity is the key. From fertilization through all the 9 months of the evolutionary process, and then from fetus through the threshold to the new world to baby, it's still continuity.
Yeah.
It's still the same DNA, and it's crossed the threshold, crossroads, by the way.
Yeah.
And now baby extends into the future or into the present, and it's called a person and being now, because the presence in this place is here. Did anything happen did the DNA change? No. It's the same DNA. It's just changing over time to reflect where I physically look. Every 7 years, my cells are changed over. But I'm here today at 59 years old plus 9 months, but it's the same thing. It's the same DNA it was at fertilization. There is continuity to this. They're saying that when they cut that cord, something was frozen in time, and that's the abortion. And so when they call out a name in a courtroom, what that is that's an abortion on demand. Right then and there, when you claim that birth date, that's an abortion that needs to be handled by the ecclesia. Just like that. So now you got the church, or the people handling it, the church handling it. The separation of church and state just occurred. State of existence. and or state of mind, and the church itself, or the temple, the body.
These people are seriously messed up to have gone to all of this great length to hide. You know what I mean? It's like so many like dips and loops and like words and legalities and things that just to hide this. I mean, I don't want to say just to hide this, because that is the whole game and it's the largest lie, but it's crazy. They're psychotic.
Well, yes, but remember that, I mean, here's the sad part is that the reason there's so much homelessness and there's so much waste is because a lie takes so much energy to promote. The truth takes no energy. For me to be, other than just making sure I have enough to eat and a roof over my head and clothes, it takes almost no energy to be.
Mm-hmm.
A lie, for me to claim to be something, it takes all kinds of energy.
Yeah.
So imagine an entire society built on lies. How much energy is required to hide all that shit?
Yeah.
When in reality, I mean, it's once the truth is exposed, all of that energy that's being used to support the lie is freed up to support the truth.
I love it. It's so simple, really.
It's huge.
In the end.
It is so simple.
All of their complications, and it's so simple. Well, I know
And
you
all
gave
it is
people...
fertilization.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I know you gave people your email address, and I put that in the chat so that they could email you and ask you for that link to those documents, which is very nice of you to offer. But where else can people go to find more of you? I know you have your site.
If people wanted to start at the foundational level, I mean, if this was too much, and in many cases it is,
yeah,
they could go to a website that was established about 4 years ago, actually. And I think it is Pauper to Prince. That's the word pauper, Pauper, the number 2, and Prince, as in Prince, pauper to Prince.xyz will get you to a website. But that's a subscription website. It's okay. $25 a month. Now, the reason I don't typically send people that direction is because it is more foundational or more fundamental. But if people can't take this giant leap, this conversation tonight is at a level that is so far beyond most people's comprehension, because they think that this is about paper. They think this is about what do I do to, travel freely. Yeah. It isn't.
Right.
I'm talking about eliminating even the existence of cancer. This isn't the cure to cancer. This is the elimination of the cancer. So if you can't wrap your head around fertilization being the godly origin, and then understanding that the United States, the nation, the one nation under God, is completely protected by those that know fertilization is their godly origin, and that the federal government's not the enemy. It looks like it.
Yeah.
It even feels like it. But in reality, when you know that the etymology of the word federal means man's covenant with God, that means that you better know where you came from. Yeah. And once you do, then all of a sudden public laws kick in that protect you. When people are getting beat up by the cops in the street, it's because the cops are protecting property that nobody's claimed. Mm. See, nobody understands that you're either with or against. Well, I don't want to be on the side of the bad guys. Who said that? What if you were just on the side of reality? What if all of us are our belief system, even if we say we don't have one, by claiming a birth date, that you just did. You just realized that when you claim a birthday, you just claim Jesus.
Yeah.
You claim the need for Jesus because now you need salvation because you're broken. You're defective. Now you need to be salvaged. Yeah. Now you need Jesus. Now you need the boat to get back to God. And guess who gets to offer that to you? Those that have your boat in the berth.
They've really got the game rigged.
It is that. And by the way, see, that's the problem. It's the game. If you get in front of the fork in the road, are you even playing?
No.
No. See, and what's funny is that I should probably mention this. that the extra embryonic material, the thing that I was in, my boat, is actually the chalice or the cup known as the Holy Grail. It is the Holy Grail. The extra embryonic material, the vessel that I was traveling in, is the very chalice or the cup that the blood of Christ was in. That's me.
Oh, yeah.
The Holy Grail is the extra embryonic material.
Wow.
I've discovered the Holy Grail, and the whole idea is that if you can get this promoted properly at the highest levels, you're not in the game anymore.
Yeah.
And that means you get your godly inheritance. And your godly inheritance is way beyond, I think, people's imagination, because we don't know anybody that's ever actually experienced it.
Right. That's true. Well, yeah.
I don't know anybody that has.
That's another reason I think that people might have for wanting to understand this, is because then you can spread this idea more, and the more people we have on the side of truth, whatever the truth is, the better, obviously. So I think that is important as well.
If the whole world just woke up tomorrow and looked up and said, my godly origin is fertilization,
right,
and all the rest is nonsense.
It's like a lot of things.
If that happened,
right,
the banking system, the full faith and credit system would dissolve overnight. The blood of the people would not be the people would not become the sacrificial lamb that they are currently. Understand that by leaving the boat behind, you become the sacrifice. By extension, you're the one that you guess whose presence gets to be sacrificed. That's the hardest thing for people to understand.
Yeah.
Is that if somebody can convince you it's okay for somebody to die for you 2,000 years ago. Hey, Kurt, I got this idea. There's a guy I know 2,000 years ago that they hung up on a cross so that you could have a better day. Oh, really? So 2,000 years ago, some guy was murdered, some guy was tortured so I could have a better day.
Yeah.
So I could have a better day today. Yeah, sound like a good thing? Well, no, I don't really want I don't want to accept that, because by me accepting the fact that somebody died for me so I could have a better day means that there's a debt.
Yeah.
An unpaid debt.
Oh, true.
And here's the thing. If they can get me to accept a guy to die 2,000 years ago, what if somebody came up to you today and said the same thing and said, listen, all bets are off, all sins are forgiven, but you got to pick someone you love right now so that we can hang him on the cross?
Hell no.
Would you do it?
No.
Well, here's the thing. Understand that is happening. But what people don't realize is that je suis, or Jesus devoid of the I, is your presence. Remember, the boat minus you, or your presence, the I. So what's being sacrificed? The I. Your presence is being sacrificed. So they get you to agree that Jesus is an acceptable idea, and then they turn it around, and guess who gets to be sacrificed? Your presence. You get to be sacrificed. They've already got you to agree that somebody has to be sacrificed. The neat thing is it's you. Your lifetime is sacrificed. You're the sacrifice.
Yeah. Even if you think about it,
they got you to agree somebody. Yeah.
Even if you think about the other meaning of the word, like sacrifice your presence, you're present. You're sacrificing your present because you're not accepting that, right now you were fertilized and are present still.
Which is where God is. God's only in the present.
Right.
So they get me to agree to a birth date frozen on a timeline, September 19th, 1960 at 3:50 a.m. And my presence, that's in the past, isn't it?
Right.
I'm never here.
No.
I'm lost to the present forever, because I'm stuck with a character that is now in a Gregorian-based timeline in between 1 and 2020. Even the Jewish calendar says it is from 0 to 5780, which means that if you really look at 2020 right now, from a Jewish perspective, that's 3,760 years in the past. Do you realize that somebody living according to the Jewish calendar, which is 5780 right now, they'd be looking backwards at those of us claiming 2020 and laughing, going, the greatest prison system ever devised was a calendar.
It's for your mind.
And it is, because the people living in 5780 are what? 3,760 years into the future. Or you're stuck in the past. And that's what people don't understand, is that by claiming these ridiculous, time-bound characters, it's the greatest prison system ever devised.
Yeah, everything is built on that.
Everything is.
Literally. So what does it matter? Everything. It's connected to everything.
Everything. Kurt, it seems funny. It seems so simple. It is.
It is.
And that's why it has to be simple, because everybody has to understand that their godly origin is fertilization. It's that simple. The moment the entire planet wakes up to reality of origin, their godly origin. Kurt, I don't believe in God. I don't give a shit if you believe in creation. Yeah. You were created.
Yeah.
Did mom and dad do it? No. Dad didn't wedge open the ovum and force his sperm in there. He didn't do shit. All he did was drop off his material at the job site and hope to God something happened.
Yeah.
And it did, in my case.
Right. Yeah, it's beautifully simple. And I think that is what's so empowering about it, is that anybody is actually capable of understanding and knowing themselves and doing that and being here now. So that's a beautiful thing I really like about this whole thing that you've laid out. But we do need to wrap things up, I think, and we have given people some ways to look more into it and to follow up on this, which is awesome. And you're always welcome to come back if you would like to. But before we do the sort of closing, what are your sort of final words of wisdom, or like the final idea that you want to leave people with as we close down?
Well, I'm gonna say this. Even though it sounds like I'm doing everything for me, the truth of the matter is I am. Because if people understand that the biblical concept of to love thy neighbor as thyself, there's a presumption that most people miss. It presumes that you love your own existence first. There's a reason that they tell the parents to grab the masks, when a plane's going rough or going down, the things fall down, the gas, the oxygen mask, they say for the adults to grab them first so they have oxygen to help the others, the children or what have you. It's the same thing here. If I am not here, then who is saying what I'm saying? Nobody. If I clear myself at the level I'm working right now, I also clear everybody else indirectly. Yeah. Because what is good for me and what works for me applies to everybody else. Because the truth of the matter is we're all created at fertilization. And when I point that out at the highest levels, then everybody is unbound. Yes. So, everybody can continue to do what they're doing. I don't really care. But I'm going to say that it really is just, it's kind of a waste of time. No offense.
But it's fascinating too, because that's also another thing that parallels on all these different levels. Because like you're saying, with your examples, it's true with anything. You always have to love yourself first. You have to take care of yourself first. You have to make sure that you have your needs fulfilled first before you can ever help anyone else. And if your goal is to be of service to others or to help others, then you're not going to do that if you're not already there.
I found that the people that are out there doing things for other people and it appears to be selfless, they're the angriest, bitterest group of people I've ever met. And the fact is they're lying to themselves. If you're expressing the very essence of your being, that's the greatest thing you can do for me. I don't want to meet somebody pretending to be somebody else. Yes. I want to meet the real being because I want the authenticity of that vibrational soul. That's what I'm looking for, and that's what I gravitate towards. Well, I gravitate towards that.
And I think that empowers other people to do the same, honestly, too. So it's like you're robbing yourself if you're not, but you're also robbing everyone else.
Right, because you're not doing what you should be doing. If there's something about you, if you're the best at something and you're not getting paid for it, guess what? People will listen to you about that forever, because where your heart goes, your talent will eventually be expressed. But we don't do that. We actually are chasing dollars. We're chasing all kinds of ideas. We're even believing in nonsense, or deferring our own power and our own authority. There's an old saying that you live under my house, you live under my roof, you go by my rules. And what we don't realize is that when we give up our ability to self-govern, and we live under somebody else's roof, somebody else's idea, whether it's a religion or politics or something like that, we have deferred or we have let go of our ability to even, you don't get to choose steak in somebody else's house.
Yeah.
You can choose steak all day long in your own house, but when you go to somebody else's house, you eat what they're feeding you. And that's what right now we're just being fed a bunch of garbage because we have believed that our government this or Christianity that or Buddhism this. It doesn't matter what it is. Belief systems are all toxic. They're all toxic. So that's it. There's nothing. And we could talk seriously about anything, and it all fits. Just so you know, everything fits into this.
I totally can see that. Yeah, I can see it kind of stacking up everywhere.
You know, and you have the word SINE in your title to your book.
Yes.
Sign, right?
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I want to know what that means to you because, see, I know that the sine wave itself, the sunrise, sunset below the horizon, you got the lunar aspect when the sun drops below, the light of the moon is actually working on certain levels. What is it in that title? Why is the word sign in there?
It's a great question. So it's sine curve of eons, and the concept comes from the idea that we have this Kali Yuga, and we go through the yugas, the cycle of time, basically, and it's almost always represented as a circle.
It's a corkscrew.
Yeah, but I unravel it into the sine curve to show that, because even though we're always going to go from dark to light over and over again, of that conception of things, we're also making progress as we go along and not just cycling back to the exact same beginning and kind of repeating everything. So
yeah, that's the element of time. Once you add the element of time, that the circle actually is it's like stretching a slinky.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I got into that years ago, and that's why I was excited about the title. So
well, thank you. Yeah, not many people have ever asked me. Yay, that's so great, and everyone else can buy it too. But right now,
I'm excited.
Ow, I just hit myself with it. But right now, you can get it for $15 signed too. So take advantage of that.
Oh, that's what I was hoping for, to get that so I can monetize your signature.
Yeah.
That was a joke. All right, so are we good?
Yes, we are good. So, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog, concentric, electric dose of wisdom, according to Kurt Kallenbach. Kurt, thank you so much for your work to further all of this thought and also sharing it with us here tonight.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Awesome. Though we walk through darkness in this Kali Yuga, we are a candle in the night. We are burning bright no matter who tries to dim us, and we know that we are sovereign in our souls. We have only to make the knowledge the core of what we do, how we act, and where we go from here. Claim the entirety of you all the way back to the moment you began at fertilization, which is always right here, right now. No one can take it from you. It is you. Until your sovereignty erupts from you and crashes about for all to see, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words and told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak. While the tongue beats a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies, disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets food is sorcery. To recreate the God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Henio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me?
Run.
Sculpted from the ether. The material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional three ain't meeting me on top of the fourth. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with Yggdrasil, branch down. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter that they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over understand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber, kosher, wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasped hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. But nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking
run.